Hey guys, welcome to Mosaic. This is a podcast where we have searching conversations, and everyone in Shard Nation, you already know what time is it. It's 6 p.m. on Sundays when we go live. That's when these episodes air, and there's a live chat right down here.
Right down there.
That you guys can talk in, and you can say hi, and you can hang out, and you can have discussions. You can talk about how wrong we are. And it's wonderful because we hold space for that. This is a very interesting episode. It is a very special episode. It is a first-time episode for Mosaic. And I'm going to hold this out for as long as I possibly can because I like tension and suspension. And I'm also not completely comfortable yet, so I'm going to adjust while I'm doing this. But you guys are going to be fine. You're going to be okay. It's going to happen, guys. We're going to get through this episode together. I am doing this episode alone.
Oh my God.
Because it's just me on this episode.
No, it's not.
By myself.
Nope. Lies.
No. Ruth and Daniel are also here, and check it out. They are sitting next to each other. They love each other. They're cute.
First time I'm actually looking at the TV while we record. So
because you're usually over on the other side.
It looks like we're in the things when you're in a movie theater and they're like getting the audience's reaction.
Oh yeah, they do that a lot lately.
I know.
Like it's like,
like
these
the
are
scary ones.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's put on night vision and get their reactions.
Look how this audience reacts to it. Oh, they're scared. Wow, it's amazing. But we also have a very special guest this episode. There's an extra S on there because there's an extra guests that we are bringing on, and that is Jonathon and Sophie Musser.
Yeah! Where's the...
Welcome to Shard Nation. Just guess one. That's the wrong one. Yep.
All right, okay. That was it.
We don't have
beat.
it. It's
do
okay.
The beat.
Yeah, just
do the beat.
That's the one that we know.
Okay.
Daniel is awfully too close.
He's excited.
He's too close.
This is my first episode where I am now allowed the beep button the entire time. So I'm excited for this.
He has been waiting to sit next to the soundboard for every
won't
episode.
Give me a button for it. So now I just have to sit over here
Daniel.
with my. Now we're happy in the world.
So everyone in Shard Nation knows exactly what's happening. This is the 20 minutes of chaos that ensues Is ensue the right word? Is that?
It soothes us that it ensues.
Yeah, it soothes us.
Correct word?
Yep.
Is that the correct word?
Works for me.
Okay, cool. It ensues every episode. And it is us trying to figure out what we're doing with our lives, which is what this podcast is all about. So everyone that's not in Shard Nation, welcome. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll regulate you. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. We're going to end up talking about some really cool stuff. I have no idea what it is yet. And guess what? Nor does anyone else that's sitting on this.
Nobody else knows.
No clue.
In fact, Sophie over here is freaking out because she's like, what is this?
I am kind of a little bit. But several questions have popped in my mind just since you guys have started talking.
Yes.
Whoa, okay.
Love it.
Bro.
Go ahead.
I was just, you guys were sitting over there talking about what we should be doing with our lives. So is there an age where you actually know what you should be doing with your life?
This is
I'm not there.
fantastic question.
Man.
And we don't give answers on this podcast. So that is just something that we can sit with. No, I think that that's really good because I think that we have a idea of like, oh, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have it all figured out because everyone in their 30s has things figured out. And you think that when you're in their 20s. And then you get to your 30s and you're like, wait, no one knows what they're doing. And no one has a clue on how to get their stuff together, which is a better way to say it than what I want to say.
I always thought that, like, growing up, I thought my parents had it together. They never thought that, like, everything was perfect and they just have the whole life figured out. And then it was like a couple years ago, I was calculating my kid's age to my age. And then with my dad's age, I know it's confusing, but thinking like, okay, my dad was my age when this happened and all that. And I'm like, he must have been lost as much as I was, or maybe he did have it all together. I don't know.
And we just talked about that with our daughter because she's 12 and they're passed out those things. So I guess in 8th grade, they get to decide where they're going and career-wise.
What?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
In 8th grade, they're literally given like,
They're
hey, figure out your life.
They're planning right now, bro.
Because
pressure.
They can graduate from high school with a college degree.
With their associates.
Or
With
a
their
technical degree.
Or a technical.
Or a dentist degree. Or a law degree.
What?
Or a
yes.
engineering degree. Or a culinary degree.
Yes.
Or a all kinds of degrees.
Yes. And so
what high school did we go to that they were like, you're going to go to college to figure things out?
Hard knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
So we're talking about that, and she was like, I just don't know. And I was like, that's okay to not know, because literally me and Dad switched careers the last 3 years. We both have changed careers. So it's like, you don't have to decide what you're going to do.
When you said you and Dad, my brain is completely different than your child's. So I'm like,
No.
you and Dad both switched?
I'm your dad.
Talking to my daughter.
I'm your father.
I'm tracking now.
I thought this was the right episode to bring it out on. It explains so much now.
It does.
Daniel is your father.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
So I do want to give everyone in Shard Nation, they have a little bit of context to Jonathan's life.
Yeah.
But they do not have context to who Jonathan and Sophie together are. And so we don't have to go, we don't have to make this episode this entire thing about this, but I do want to give them a little bit of context to how you guys met and everything that ensued for you guys in your journey to this couch.
Wow.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Well, I would say that it's like, this podcast is Mosaic.
Yes.
It's a wow. I'm feeling emotional. I
okay.
usually don't do that, but it's a journey of brokenness,
Yeah.
and it's a journey of beautiful brokenness, because we came together completely broken, but we got married individually completely broken. I was broken, and he was broken. And I came in with a load of literally a suitcase full of shards.
Wow.
And so did he.
I had all kinds of shards.
Huh?
Where's the button?
We got the button.
Oh, yeah.
It's your job.
There we go.
Don't hit the robot one, though.
He was feeling a little, but now he's better. No, the last episode we had with Jonathan, he told us kind of his journey growing up, kind of his upbringing, his family, and then him stepping into the dealership up in Dallas, y'all's careers and stuff, and how y'all met. But I want to hear your side. Was he a little goofy guy, or was he a great guy, or tell me about the Jonathan behind the scenes. No, she's thinking on this one.
Oh, yeah.
When y'all first met, talk about when y'all first met.
Well, I met Jonathan when he was still married to his previous spouse. And he was very busy. He always dressed very nice, let me say. He was a snappy dresser.
Snappy.
Very metro.
Snappy.
Very metro. But I didn't really get to know him till he was walking through his divorce. That's when the conversations deepened a little bit. And I saw a deep heaviness on him. And I have a natural mama heart. Yeah. And I just wanted to mama him. And I was that friend at the dealership. And that's where our journey kind of started. And as a friendship. Advice. I was giving him terrible, terrible advice. Seriously.
Yeah. Date as many girls as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Okay, whoa. Wait a minute. Hold on. Is that bad advice?
He was a virgin when he got married, which is great.
Yeah.
Please do that. But when, like I said, I came into this marriage broken. I was very promiscuous as a young Christian girl. I just was. And to me, the best way to get over an old is to get under a new. Yeah. That's so awful to say that.
You can say that.
But that's my mentality. That was my mentality. And so I was literally advising him, say, hey, you need to get yourself out there, go out with as many women, get her off your mind, and she'll be history because you'll have all these other soul ties that you created that you'll have to
now,
weave through.
You're super sad. Now let's deal with soul ties on top of that.
Yeah.
I need deliverance.
I'm not saying
that was my advice to my future husband. Can you believe
Little
that?
did she know.
Okay,
Little
so
did
I'm not saying that
I need deliverance from her advice.
I'm not saying
her fault.
the soul ties part is correct. I'm not saying that at all. I am though wanting to wrestle in so what we do is we take broken pieces and we rotate and we try to find the beauty in the brokenness and the hardships in this. That's how we navigate this podcast. And I had just recently saw a reel that made me go, interesting. Never thought about it that way before. And it was under the statement, which is, I think it parallels here very well. You need to date the wrong person. And I was like, that's interesting. Because, and I think that it's might be what you were trying to tell Jonathan here. You need some other experience. You need something that's not going to just let you stew in, because we can go crazy when you just stew. And like you start to marinate in the depression, you start to marinate in the loss. And again, I'm not saying like this is my advice to anyone else as well, but it did make me go, wow, that's so different than what I've ever heard in the church. And in the church, they tell you date with purpose. It's this concept of you need to find the one, and there's only one out there, and that is not healthy. I feel like in my mind, like I don't think that that's a good place to go into, where it's like there's only one. Because when you mess up, or if you've gone through a divorce, if you've felt loss, if you've gone through a broken relationship, you might feel I've lost the one. There was only, so now I have to settle. Now I have to, and I don't think that that's a healthy mindset. And so just I'm joining you in your advice to your husband on that maybe it wasn't terrible advice. Not saying like sleep around, but to go and have other experiences, get to know other people is not a quote unquote bad advice thing.
There's so much beauty in people. And there's so much beauty in different people. And opening your heart and mind and getting out of that tunnel view when you're broken and when you're hurting, and realizing, hey, there's someone else out there. There's someone else that could be out there that I could do life with. And I think that was the message that I was going for. Yeah. But I'm glad he didn't listen to my advice.
Nope.
But it was, I knew I was going to be with this guy after our first kiss.
Really?
What?
I'm not kidding. Like,
wait, we need the story of that kiss. We need the story of how that happened.
It was that good of a kiss.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
come on.
Well, there's two versions to this story.
I'll
and
tell you the two versions.
Mine is the right version.
No. It was Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, okay.
And me and my girlfriends were going to go out for some margaritas, his favorite drink now. And he invited himself. He says, I invited him.
She totally invited me.
So we went to one of my friends' family restaurants, and they were always so good to me. Good to me by I mean adding extra shots to my margaritas.
Oh, for sure.
Very good to me. And I was feeling it, and me and my girlfriend were supposed to go see a movie afterward, but then she ended up getting a text or whatever. She's like, I don't want to go anymore. And Jonathan was sitting there, and he says, I'll take you. I said, okay.
Smooth.
But I only ever had friendship eyes for him.
Right.
But halfway through my second margarita,
praise God.
We are not advocating this.
I look over.
Where's the beat button, Daniel? Come on.
Like, this guy's kind of good looking. Like, I never saw
Oh, Lord.
the cuteness and attractiveness on this guy before.
Is this all true, Jonathan? Is this the true
I have
story?
no idea.
Answer honestly, were you paying for the extra shots? Were you the friend? I knew it.
I'll give you $5 for two.
Anyway, keep going. This is interesting.
So we decided to go to a movie theater, which we're in downtown Dallas off Lemon Avenue. There's a ton of, places to go see movies.
Yeah.
But he decided to take me to the Rockwall Theater right overlooking the lake.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yes.
you suave
yes.
character. Look at you. Romantic.
And we decided to
Was
stop
very-
and have like another cocktail and maybe an appetizer. I think we ordered crab cakes, or oysters, one of them.
Crab cakes.
And while we're there,
They
it's
weren't
still
that good.
I'm still like thinking like, who is this guy? I'm seeing him in a different light. It's still a different light. And he leans over and he's like, hey, come here. I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay. So I leaned out. He's like, no, I want to tell you something. And I leaned over and he laid one on me.
What?
Yep.
Mr.
Jonathan.
Smooth.
Yep.
Golly.
But I tell
The
you what.
Rizzler.
But when he kissed me,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I literally felt electricity go all the way down to my toes, like a shock
Yeah.
go through my body. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? And who was this guy?
Yeah.
Man.
Now you know.
What character. The first time
Now
he
you
hugged
know.
me, I felt the same thing. He didn't buy me crab cakes, though. What the heck, Jonathan?
You know, and I'm the type that always I always guarded myself.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to be able to hold up my guard with this guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be able to keep that barbed wire around my heart.
Yeah.
Okay. There's
What?
a lot.
Oh.
There's a lot that I
Going on to
want to.
something.
I want to go into for sure with this. Let's start with the friendship eyes.
Okay.
Because I think that there are. I'm gonna try my best to like really help some dudes who are in the friend zone out right now. Here's me shooting my shot for you guys. So I'm learning a lot about attachment styles. Okay, and there are three basic. Yeah, or not basic, but there are three attachment styles: anxious, secure, and avoidant. Now, this is the dynamic that happens in more relationships than not, in the sense of unhealthiness. Which this is why I want to talk about the friendship eyes, because in the eyes of an anxious or an avoidant attachment style person, a secure attachment is boring, and so they don't see it first. They don't see it as like, this is a connection that I actually want to invest in and I want to grow into. That more times than not is voiced unknowingly or unaware of, we're just friends. That's just my friend. Like, we just hang out. We're, just doing life. But like, no, I don't see him that way. And that's because on some level, there's not that excitement, which is what I feel like you felt whenever he kissed you. Is that electricity, that like that? Well, okay, there is something here. And so I want to pose the question of, how many times are we missing out on the healthy thing because we see it as the boring thing? And I'll pose the question to you this way: did you see Jonathan as boring, or did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very uninteresting, very boring.
Jonathan, let me help you out. Because
did.
boring is safe.
It was.
You
safe.
were very safe. You were very
Comfortable.
secure. Oops, sorry, that's stay on your own roof. They just wanted to pop in and say hi.
It was very easy to be around him.
Yeah.
In that friend zone, you don't have to have that, oh, I want to, not that you're wanting to seduce, but like that seductive, that attractiveness, the lip gloss is on. You're just like picking the spinach out of your teeth with your friend. It's
You feel comfortable. Yes.
You're at home.
Whoop.
And that's what I felt when I was with him. After that kiss and after we spent some time together, I felt at home, and it freaked me out.
Go on. So then what happened? Because this is a dynamic that I want to talk about. So when you got freaked out, what was your instinct? What was your reaction to it?
I got in my car and drove home.
You left.
Oh, I left. But I left weeping bitterly, almost to the point where I couldn't drive. And I was telling God, don't do this again to me. Don't allow me to fall in love again, because I can't handle the pain. If he hurts me, I can't do it again. Wow. And I was a single mother raising a child by myself. Yeah. And I couldn't do it. It was an angry cry. It was a freaked out, scary cry. But I was beside myself. It was 3:00 in the morning when I was driving home in tears, knowing I was going to fall head over heels for this guy, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Because that is what happened to her in the past, in college, and got jilted at the altar, had a son, all of that stuff happened, which was where this hurt and brokenness was coming from. Somebody had already rejected her, and and she had gone through this huge transformation. When we started. When we became friends, she was going through this huge, she had just got the lap band surgery and going through this huge transformation, and started taking care of herself, started eating better. So I kind of came in on the back end of this kind of rediscovery of yourself, healing. And so she's like, all right, here we go again. Yeah. You know, I just kind of taken the reins again of my out of control life. She was back in church. You know, she, like I say, losing weight, looking amazing. And, you know, all these guys coming out of the woodwork. Thankfully, I was friends with her before all of that transformation. So I was, you know,
You know, I was on my own journey of faith. You know, my father was a pastor and I was raised in church. And I was also getting over the loss of my brother. And one of the last things he ever said to me on his deathbed, as he was smacking his hand on the table, we were saying our goodbyes. I was thanking him for always being there for me and my son. And he had a brain stroke and a blood vessel bleed and coming to his, you know, was putting a lot of pressure. So he's in a lot of pain, but he had a slant on his mouth because of the stroke. And I remember weeping at his feet, telling him, you know, thank you for being there. He was with that whole relationship with my son's father and the turmoil and the abuse, physical, verbal. It was just a very scary time in my life. And my brother was there, sometimes physically with a bat, protecting me. Yeah. And I was saying thank you to him and goodbye. And his feet were soaked with my tears. Because how do you do that, you know? Yeah. And I remember him banging his hand on the metal table next to his bed, and with big tears streaming down his face. And he looked at me and he said, "Stop it! Stop it! Where's your faith?
Wow.
Where's your faith?" Those were the last words he ever said to me. And I realized in that moment that my faith had been put in people, men in my life, relationships in my life, that my faith, my identity, my ground, my peace, my happiness, my joy, my well-being, I had put in my father, in my brother who was dying, in a relationship. And I was on a journey of faith. I went through 5 years of deep suicidal depression where if I wasn't a mother, I wouldn't be here. And I remember the night that I decided I ate. I got up to almost 300 pounds at 5'2". That's a lot of weight for me to carry. But it was my shell. I didn't want people to look at me or see me. And I remember the night that I was laying in my bed and I was crying because I still felt so much love for Laith's father. And it was a deep love because once I start, it's not a switch for me that I can just turn on and off.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember crying and asking God, I said, "God, you got to take this out of me. You got to pull this love from my heart or it's never going to end. It's never going to stop. I'm never going to stop hurting myself. I'm never going to stop having these thoughts. You've got to yank this love from my heart, from my soul." And I remember doing the physical thing of ripping it from my heart and putting it out there. And I woke up the next morning, Sam, and the sun was brighter. And I could hear birds sing. And I felt a weight lifted off of me. And I decided to go under the knife on my birthday to get that lap band surgery and lose weight and start taking my life back. And I remember going into some church because I couldn't go back to the church where my brother who passed was a worship leader. It was too painful for me to look down there on that stage. And I walked into some rando church and I was sitting there and these people were like speaking in this weird language and doing all this stuff. It was a Pentecostal church.
Of course.
And all I remember is like feeling this warm blanket, like a comforter being wrapped around me. And that was my first experience with the comforter, the comforter.
Wow, come on.
Yeah.
And then I went, that was December. Cinco de Mayo comes up, and I have this kiss. I
So
have
this is
night.
fast.
Yeah.
All of this is fast.
Within 5 months, I had dropped almost 98 pounds.
Wow.
Almost 100 pounds. And there was just a lot of brokenness in me. Where the past relationship, I was asked to make a decision. Yeah, we can be a family, but you can never speak about Jesus to our family. You can never speak about Jesus to your son. You can never enter a church. You can never talk to him about God. I love this man. I wanted a family. I wanted to raise my son in a family, but I had to make a choice. Yeah. And so then, fast forward, I meet this guy, and I realize, oh crap, I'm going to fall in love again.
So
Wow.
I love that you almost immediately talked about brokenness in it, and I know exactly what you mean when you're talking about the navigating the love that you had for your kid's father, and wanting that to go away, and it not going away, and divorce. Y'all were married, right? Or were you not married?
I realized after I found out that he was cheating on me with one of my best friends, I left the city that we were in and sold everything in my apartment and went home. And 2 weeks later, I realized I was pregnant. And I wept bitterly. I wept bitterly. Yeah. And I called him and told him that I was pregnant. He came over to meet Dad. He said he wanted to get married. Yeah. So I figured, great. We planned the wedding. My brother was going to marry us, my brother who passed. We had the church decorated. We had everything ready. I had a dress, and then he didn't show. Wow. Everybody at my dad's church knew.
Yeah.
It was horrible and humiliating.
Yeah.
And then I was ostracized by a lot of the ladies at church for being pregnant out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And then he came back and said, okay, I'll marry you, but these are the conditions. No God, no Jesus Christ, no this and this and that. And I had to make a choice. Save face to public, to these people of faith. Say faith. Oh, I'll be married. Mm-hmm. I can do this. I can be married and have a family, but be like a secret Jesus follower and secretly take my kid to church and secretly accept Christ, but deny Jesus to him just so I can be with him. Yeah. I couldn't do it. Yeah. So, I just dressed myself in shame every day. Whoa. And it became familiar, and it became my garment, and I knew how to wear it. Mm-hmm. And I became, you know what? This is who I am. Yep. And you can throw your stones. This garment is really thick. It's made out of polyester. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's flame proof, and it's dent proof. So I'm okay. I'm going to get comfortable in this shame. Mm-hmm. I'm going to walk it out. And you know what's funny though? I didn't realize that the shame, this garment of shame, was bedazzled with bitterness.
Yeah. The bitterness is almost the armor around it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, these are completely different scenarios, but I wanna hit on the likeness of a woman pregnant out of wedlock, and anyone who's gone through divorce in the church world gets handed a scarlet letter.
Oh yeah.
And that, like you said, is so ostracizing. It's so alienating, and it's lonely. And you turn that letter into armor. That's the only, it's a survival tactic, right? That's the only thing that makes sense for someone who's saying, I can't take this off of me, and because of this, you're attacking me. I'm going to turn this into armor. And I think it's made with the bitterness that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's that becomes harder and harder to break through. But we feel safer in it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have an experience that begins to melt that armor. And you meet him. Did your armor get harder before it melted? Or did you navigate that dynamic?
We started dating, spending almost every chance we could get together, we would spend together. It was just so brand new and exciting at the beginning. But I remember thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to have to show him who I really am.
Mm.
And so I unzipped it a couple times. And during a fight, I remember we were in your loft in downtown Dallas. And I was just going to show him. I'm going to get angry. Or I'm angry right now. And you're going to see the pain.
Wow.
Scared the crap out of him. He broke up with me. He didn't want to talk to me.
Scary. Want that again. Had just come out of a divorce. I didn't want to go back into something, that was destructive and scary and feeling unsafe. I wanted to be safe. And as much as I loved her, I was, and I didn't really understand what boundaries were as much as I do, as we do today. But I was like, hey, we're setting boundaries here at the beginning. And thankfully, about a month later, she came back and apologized, and we worked things out and continued dating.
And then we broke up again.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to be a stepfather. In fact, when I divorced, my thing I told all my buddies was, hey, next girl I meet, she's going to be younger, no kids, blah, blah, blah. I had this long laundry list of things that, criteria.
Right.
And, she really didn't
5
meet.
years older.
She didn't really meet any of them, except she was beautiful. That was the only thing that she met, and smart. I wanted somebody who was smart and sharp, and she certainly was. But all the other stuff, like I'm not going to be someone's stepdad. I mean, I'm young, I'm vibrant, I'm ready to go. I got life by the tail.
Yeah.
And so it was tough.
Because we meshed so well.
Yeah.
Like we literally had so many things in common. Like we grew up watching the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
Hold on, but my
a great
parents are
show.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
Okay, can I say that?
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
weird for us, but we did.
Yeah.
We were Michiganders. He's a Michigander.
Our
we
dads pastored at the same church, just in different time periods.
So it's like
crazy.
we missed each other.
In Michigan.
We had
Yeah.
so much in common. That's why it felt like home, because it felt so easy and natural. And that was what's so hard, because I'm not one of those women that will be with a man no matter how he treats my kid. I'm like, my kid, and then the man, it was not that way for me. I wasn't going to sacrifice my son to be in a relationship with a guy. That just wasn't going to happen. Yeah. And his first time to meet Lath, it was during Christmas time, and Lath was about 5.5, 6. And he was a normal, rambunctious little kid crawling underneath the table at the restaurant, interrupting me every 5 seconds. Yeah. And it annoyed him. And he was so rude to Lath. And I remember, I'm like, you just need to leave. And he left the restaurant. And I just wanted to break down and cry in the restaurant, because I knew I couldn't be with a guy that was going to treat my kid this way. He was so rude to Lath. Yeah. And I went and we got Lath that stuffed animal, Build-A-Bear. Yeah. And we called it Vanilla, and we put a little heart in it, and just to something to kind of break the crassness of that meeting. Yeah. And I called Jonathan and I said, forget you ever knew me. Forget you ever met me. Erase my number from your phone. Don't ever talk to me. Don't ever look at me ever again. I never want to see you again for the rest of my life. Like, that's it. How you treated my son is unacceptable. Yeah. Forget you ever knew me. Wow. And I didn't talk to him anymore. Like, that was it for me.
What was going through for you, Jonathan, on that?
I was selfish and broken, and all the things that men deal with, especially when they're single. And I didn't want some little kid holding me back,
Right.
By any means. And so when she said that, really just a wave of not condemnation, but just self-understanding that, like, man, I'm super selfish.
Reality.
Yeah, it was a huge bucket of cold water over my head, like.
Yeah.
And so I I had a month to kind of self-reflect and realize, man, I'm super selfish, and I prayed a lot. I'm like, God, is this what you have for me? Is this something that you want? Do you want me to be a step parent? Like, it had never happened in my family. It was just kind of foreign to my understanding. And by God's great grace, He gave me the power to call and apologize, and the love for Lath, this kid I did not know, who was not born to me physically.
Right.
He gave me such an amazing love for him. That was supernatural.
I still see it. I still see this moment.
Yeah.
You were at my mom's house, and you opened the door, and you were walking out. It was a morning, and Lath and I were trailing behind, and Lath runs up to me. He says, "Mom, do you think Jonathan will let me call him Dad?"
Wow.
So
Wow.
Because when he came back, he was all in.
Okay, so yeah, I do want to hit on that because that's a closed door. Lose my number. Forget you ever met me. There is like, whew, that is doors. Not even slammed. The hinges are welded shut.
Yeah.
There is no doorknob.
no entry.
How did you come back?
The man on my knees, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Let me ask Sophie, because I know you want to come back, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Like obviously you do.
Yeah.
Obviously you do. But Sophie, you were like, that is boom. How did he show up for you that you were like, or
I want to, because I want you to answer that, because I'm curious too, but I want to rewind just a little bit and then take us back up to that question, because there's a journey here I'm taking it from a side of, like, it sounded like you said, like, church hurt. One is huge because you're ostracized by these women that are supposed to be spiritual covering in your life. You were wounded by them. You've gone through that whole journey, wounded by other people in your life, wounded by men in your life. So you like have this whole thing. It's like building up to a volcano. And then all of a sudden you're at this point where all of these feelings and emotions and hurt and everything is all coming together. And then the explosion was this prayer you had in your car of weeping before God and saying, God, I can't walk back into this again. And then now, after all those hurts and everything like that, my bro over here does something that even stabs you again. So where was, going into that, where was the transition that went from, I'm going to guard myself, to Holy Spirit, you're my guardian kind of thing? Where was that transition that took place?
Oh. I'd like to just say something here. As you were speaking, I would like to think that I did it all on my own, and that it was something that I opened the door to or closed the door to. But as hearing you talk, I realize now how God's grace covered me and followed me all my life.
Come on.
Even in those moments.
Yeah.
Grace to love again. When I thought I was in control, it was Him loving through me.
Yeah.
And not letting me stop and not letting me say no. He's perfect love, and love comes from Him. And so anything that I thought I was holding back or was straining or giving, He was close to me. I remember when he called me, and he wanted to talk, and it was over the phone. It wasn't face to face, but I heard a tone in his voice. And he wept actually on the phone.
Wow.
And he said, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. And he told me that he loved me and to give him another chance. and that we had something special and something amazing, and it's worth trying again.
Wow.
And I said, okay. Remember, it was on the phone.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to pause here and talk to the Shard Nation, because there's someone here, probably many,
Yeah.
that are
Come
facing a similar situation, maybe in your marriage, maybe with your children,
Come on.
with your pastor, boss, whatever. And I'm telling you, humility always pays huge dividends.
So good.
And just as Sophie was saying, it was the grace of God. It was the grace of God that gave me humility to say, you know, I was wrong. I apologize. There's something here. Can I have a second chance? And when we lay our pride down as men, as women, both, we give the opportunity for God's grace to come in. His great grace that is greater than our sin, that's greater than our pride,
Greater than our pain.
greater than our pain. And that is when miracles happen, because out of that came a marriage.
Yeah.
Out of that came twins. Out of that came a son that I would lay my life down for. But it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have. And man, it starts with you. You're the leader. Lay down your pride.
Yeah.
Lay down your right to be offended and say, hey, give me a second chance. Please forgive me. You can do this through God's grace. So can I just pray real quick? Lord?
Absolutely.
Lord, I thank you, God, for
Yes,
that,
Jesus.
for those people, Lord God, who feel like they have hit the wall, that there's no chance for restoration. There's no chance, God, for anything to happen in their marriage, in their job, Lord, in their relationships. But Lord God, I thank you that when we reach the end of ourselves, God, that is when you are able to come in and make miracles happen through your great grace. And so, God, I pray, God, for grace, God, in truth, God, that you would open up our eyes so that we could, God, step into what you are calling us. The most beautiful blessing is typically after an opportunity to die to ourselves. So, God, let us not be afraid of that death, and let us realize that out of the ashes, Lord, you are able to make something beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I declare it, Lord, over my brothers and my sisters, in Jesus' name.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
I think something amazing coming out of that, after your whole story you just shared, like things I didn't even know. And y'all are like, when Ruth and I consider some of the most dearest friends and most beautiful people we know, it's y'all, and how fortunate we are and blessed we are to have y'all in our life, because y'all are saying all this backstory of things that y'all walked through and things at that time in your life. And then the Sophie and Jonathon I know is the most faith-filled, awesome people that I've ever walked inside of my life. And some of y'all's journey, I mean, we may get into that or not here on the show, but I mean, I really don't even know where to go from here. This has already blessed me on the episode. I want to talk about, okay, so y'all reconnected, y'all walked through that. Jonathan's now in the picture with you and your son, and like amazing things are happening. Like, where did the marriage talk start to happen? And then y'all walking in covenant relationship. Oh, I see a smirk over there. So
He owes me a proposal.
Yeah, I do.
What?
I do.
on the show?
the ring.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe.
I was a very independent single mother. My son and I had, with my sister, we purchased a house, and my mom and dad, I moved back in with my mother and father. We purchased a home. I had my own stuff going, you know, and I was living with my mother and father, and they would help with Lathe because I worked quite often, or quite a lot, and we would talk all the time on the phone. He was still living in Dallas at the time, and I remember driving from Taco Bell one lunch date, and he says, we're holding hands, and he says, well, I'm dating you to marry you, just so you know.
What?
I said, and I kind
Right
of
to the point.
I did this little side eye, like,
Mess around.
He's all like, no, I want us to be.
I'd already been through the fire.
Yeah.
I want us to be exclusive. Like I'm only dating you, and I only want you dating me.
Yeah, because she was kind of still dating a couple guys while I'd already laid my life down. I'm like, all right, I need a little, need some more, some exclusivity here.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So I said, okay. That was it. And so now I knew, okay, so now we're dating exclusively. And we talk a lot on the phone in the evenings because I'm still living at home. He's still living in Dallas. And on my way to work one morning, he says, well, I'm ready to marry you. And I was like, okay. He's like, let's do it. I'm like, okay. And he says, well, let's go to the JP. Let's go today at lunchtime.
Oh my God.
I'm
Wow.
Yeah.
let's go to the courthouse and get the paperwork going. I'm like, okay. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm calling this guy's bluff.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, I wasn't all in it yet. I was just thinking, okay.
In the back of
Okay.
my mind, I'm like, keep the conversation going.
Man, she really
She's
bought
saying
that.
okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
I don't
saying
know.
okay.
I don't know
I'm
if
just gonna
it's,
keep
it's a
this
good,
rolling.
good thing to play marriage chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
I really
Yeah,
was
you're
doing
gonna
it.
swear first.
So we went to the
That's so
courthouse.
true.
And he pulls out, we signed our names. He signed his name. Okay. And we go sit before the judge, and I'm just watching him. And he's like, okay, I need your driver's license. And he takes out his driver's license. I'm like, well, I'm putting mine out too. And so he did it. So I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, well, you need to sign here. And I'm watching him. He didn't hesitate. I'm like, well, I'm not going to hesitate. And so I signed too.
Oh my gosh.
And then that was it. We didn't talk about it for like a month that we went
Dude,
and got a
what?
license. We didn't talk about it. We just had normal conversations, went to work. We worked at the same place.
But you're technically married.
No, we just
You-
got our marriage license to
Yeah,
get married.
the application.
The
Oh, okay.
application
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
married.
I was on the same
Yeah,
I was
no,
on the
we
same
weren't.
way. I thought y'all legitimately got
No,
married and
no.
like
Application.
didn't talk about it for months. I'm like,
No.
did y'all move in together? Like what?
No, we're still good. We see each other on holidays. He gets a stocking. I don't know.
Maybe.
cold.
So we're there, and then one morning on my way to work, he calls me because we'd call. It was a 45-minute drive for me. He says, let's go tomorrow and get married. I'm like, tomorrow? He's like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. And it's in springtime. It's in April. I said, okay. So the next morning, I didn't tell anybody in my family. No friends, nobody. I wore this little white summer dress with a little gray sweater, a white dress, and I showed up to work. I'm thinking, he's going to forget. He's going to say he's not feeling good. He's going to back out. Come lunchtime, he's like, okay, let's go. He was already dressed in a suit because at Sewell you had to wear suits. So we drive to the Justice of the Peace. We sign our name, and my heart is pounding out of my chest. I'm like, holy crap, he's not backing down. And we go before this judge, and he marries us. And we say these vows to each other, and I'm saying, it's like out of body experience. I'm seeing myself say these vows to this guy, and my heart is beating out of my chest. And we drive back to work. He calls his parents. I call my parents. I go home. I walk into my kitchen and have a huge panic attack and have to call 911.
Whoa.
Like, holy crap, I literally just got married.
Yeah.
And we didn't, my mom was like, well, no, we're not going to wait for the ambulance. She's freaking, she's not breathing. She's having a heart attack. She drives me. She drives me to the fire station next to my mom's house. And they throw me in the back of the ambulance, and they're putting all these things on me, and I can't breathe. I'm having a serious anxiety attack. I'm freaking married. I just got married to a guy
On your lunch
on my lunch break.
with chalupas.
Yeah.
It all started with a kiss.
Oh my
Oh.
god. Oh my god. I
Don't,
have a
don't
huge,
forget that.
but we were married.
magical kiss.
And then, but literally, I didn't move in with him.
Yeah.
I was still at my home. Leigh still was going to school in a complete different district.
Yeah.
That summer, we spent the summer together in your loft in Dallas, but we were married, but I was still living somewhere else because we got married on our lunch break.
Well,
Best
I was gonna
of both
say,
worlds.
so it's like you didn't feel like it was so okay. What
Weird.
What was the did you have a conversation like, hey, we're married and I live somewhere else? Like, how did you navigate that, Jonathan?
Well, yeah, no, it was. I mean, we knew, going into it that she was, still going to be living at her parents' house, but
we wanted Lath to finish school.
yeah,
out
we wanted to make it easy, an easy transition, or as easy as we could for Lath, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it was the cards that we were dealt, and we walked through it together, I think, well, and then built a house together shortly thereafter.
Yeah. Went through a 2-year court battle with my son, custody battle.
Yeah, that was fun.
Crazy.
That was fun. But it was exciting. It was exciting times. It was funny because when we got back to the dealership that day, nobody knew we were married, and so but we could see each other through the glass. There were still guys hitting on her. And so, like, I could see guys going into her little desk because it was all glass. Yeah. And I'm like, texting her, like, tell them to get out of your office. And she's like, because we couldn't be married. You're not allowed to be married and work in the same. That was a policy back then.
Wow.
And so everything was like hush hush. And we'd like, see each other at lunch. And we couldn't really sit together. And we'd just kind of giggle, hee hee hee. No one knows we're married, but we do. Jokes on them. And then we finally told the GM later that we were married, and he was super upset because she pretty much ran the dealership.
Yeah.
And so he wanted me to leave. He's like, you leave, I want Sophie to stay. I was like, well, I make more money than her, so she's gonna have to leave. But
and that's how our crazy marriage journey started.
Yeah. So what can we learn from that?
I feel like I need that whole proposal where the guy gets on one knee. And
Yes, it's coming.
Yes.
Here's
you just wait. Yes. It's coming up.
I didn't get down on one knee. No. So
Neither
guys,
did Daniel.
Oh really?
No, he didn't.
Yeah. I was sitting.
He was sitting. He wouldn't get on his
It was
knee.
romantic.
It was not. It was. I'm lying.
It was in Hawaii. It was romantic.
It was in Hawaii.
It was.
Sam was there. He knows.
I know.
He was in the bush with binoculars looking.
I had to make you. You weren't even wanting to propose.
Oh my gosh. If y'all don't know me, I have a hard time with change. And so Ruth had me talk to her dad and had me do everything and basically
made it
paved
so
the way.
easy.
Yeah. But then I proposed. And now I am super, whatever that word is.
Happy?
Direct to the point. No. I mean, like, I can make the decision. So.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll propose to you. Jonathan and I will come up with our own proposal plan for you ladies.
Thanks.
I'm just saying, hey, we have 3 kids, been married 15 years, faithfully married. Things are good. So, why rock the boat?
Is it official, though? I don't know if there's not an official proposal.
There's still this box that's unchecked.
Oh. They're taking you to Paris. I mean, what else is there to check?
The proposal.
The proposal.
Golly.
In front of the Eiffel Tower. You got to do the whole thing.
In front of the Eiffel Tower?
So a proposal is just like, let's talk about this. So a proposal.
Yes.
For me as a female, I think it's a guy's proclamation of his undying love and affection and how he can't live another day without you. And he doesn't want to live another day without you. And will you make his life worth living by
That's
saying
called
yes?
the marriage ceremony.
That's what I think a proposal is, right?
It was.
So listen.
How is it to guys? How do guys view a proposal?
I proposed.
I'm just going to say, I've had 2 amazing proposals, and I'm the single one on this couch. So
See?
Did you get down on one knee?
It's not about the proposal.
I got down on one knee both times.
Don't do
Ruth?
it the third time.
I
Second
saved
time
my
you got down
marriage.
on both knees.
Maybe that's the X factor that's like
Starting
no.
sitting
I
on your
needed
butt
to
when you
deal with
propose.
some stuff for myself, and so I'll hold my responsibility. But I did propose. I had amazing proposals. The first one, I what's it called? I disguised it as we were going to shoot a short film, and the short film was about 2 people getting engaged. And so, like, she dressed up really nice. I dressed up really nice. And the scene where he proposes, I'm on my knee, and I'm about to open the box. And I tell her, by the way, this is completely real. And I open the box, and because she had seen the fake ring, but she hadn't seen the ring that I had already bought. And I open it with the real ring. And then I said her name, and it was a whole thing. And
That's epic.
We recorded the whole thing. Like, our friends were all a part of it. It was really fun. And then the second time, I lit a bunch of candles around our house, or the house that I was staying at, and I got down on my knee and I told her and asked her to marry me. Like, I did it right. I did it right. And so I had really good proposals, but I'm currently not married. But that's funny.
See, Sophie?
Okay.
Yeah. I was proposing my love for you from a resting position.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's what.
We're supposed to labor out of rest.
See? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever,
John
Ruth.
51:14.
Yeah.
There's a scripture
For it.
You missed that
For
one.
me not to get on my knee. It's in James Daniel
Oh,
chapter
okay.
2.
Uh-huh.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
All right, so fast forward all the way to where y'all are now, because you mentioned y'all were building a house and y'all have this awesome life and everything's going incredible, and you've walked out of this journey of abuse and hurt and all these things that God has done in your life, and then you have this awesome new husband in your life who says he's hearing something from God and it's gonna hurt. And then now you're having to you're looking back to, oh my gosh, here's another man in my life going to hurt me because I'm going to be taken out of this lifestyle again. Talk about that journey, that transition.
Well, he was going forward every Sunday and weeping and crying, and I didn't know what the heck was wrong with him.
I think she thought I was having an affair on her.
No, I would have known I'm a spy.
That's true.
You would be dead right now.
Yeah, that's true.
We wouldn't be having this podcast.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I knew something was going on, but we were still very freshly. We were married in 2009, and this was happening 2012, so not very long. The twins were born in 2010. And he was going forward every night or every Sunday and praying. And I remember he came home one day and he said, I feel like the Lord is telling me that we need to sell our house and sell everything in it. And this was our dream home that we had purchased. And I loved our home because I have a huge family and we could host everybody in my home. Like, when I say host, everybody has their own room and bathroom to spend the night and hang out. And kids can go here and they're not going to bother you. Like, it was a beautiful home. And I had every room decorated. Like, this was, okay, wait, this is where we're growing old.
Yeah.
And now you're saying to sell our house and sell everything in it, to go and do what? Well, I don't know, just to move somewhere in the country somewhere. And I was a city girl. And so I was not in agreement with this at all. And he laid his hands on me and prayed over me. And I had an amazing dream of a home. Actually, deja vu. It was on a couch setting like this where we're sitting in a circle with shag carpet and we're talking. Wow,
Is there
this
shag
is really
carpet here?
crazy. And it was a place where people could come, and our home was going to be a place where people could be restored and healed. And I knew it was going to be, when I found the home, it would come. My last sentence that I wrote in my journal, the house would come completely furnished.
Yeah.
That was in March of 2013 that I wrote that. And then we accidentally met the people buying our home, and which wasn't an accident, and they offered to buy our home, but they wanted to buy everything in it. So they literally bought everything in our home.
Wow.
We literally didn't have to bring anything with us. And that was crazy. Man, we just had that journey alone of saying yes to the unknown to God was a crazy faith journey.
Yeah.
That was a big journey.
Yes,
Because I
it
told him,
was.
okay, babe, I'll do this with you. I'll go on this journey with you. But just don't ever ask me to move in with your parents.
Wow.
And 3 months later, we moved in with your parents.
That's where I was going with it, is thinking like, you've trusted this man that God's placed inside your life. You've trusted God. You've walked through all this healing journey, everything that you've been through. And then now you're presented, thinking from Sophie. So I have a Sophie brain right now. I'm thinking, how in the heck, God, are you going to ask me to do this again, to abandon all my security that I have, all these things that I've built up and my perfect home and all this other stuff, to what? To trust you again with this thing. I just think it's amazing. What would your encouragement be to people that are walking in something similar right now, that are like, I have built up my own career. I have become a self-made woman. I've done all these things, my, me. And God is like pulling on their heartstrings and saying, but I've called you to so much more. What would you say to those people?
I know the pain that I walked through as a young girl and through a lot of loss. And I know what that felt like living in that garment day after day, breath after breath, minute by minute. Sometimes it's a minute by minute.
Mm.
And when I encountered God as my comforter, that feeling, that place, I wanted everything he had for me.
Yeah.
It was easy to say yes for that.
That's good.
I wanted everything he had for me. Because in that place, there was just light. There wasn't torment. And if he was calling me to something, I couldn't help but say yes. Because I know what the other thing felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unknown. But I knew if he was in it and if he's asking me, that I knew it was somehow going to be okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Because when I felt him, I didn't feel all the other things that I lived in for so many years.
Wow. And that's carried you because we know a little bit of your story. Last time we had Jonathan on, and I don't think we touched on this at all because we went a completely different way on like trust and stuff like that. That moment in that heart connection and relationship you have with the Father carried you through immense trials that y'all had when you came here. And I'm thinking of one in my head. I'll let y'all share if there's something else you want to share on, but there's like one major thing that y'all went through that was like you had to lean on the Father when your husband was in a hospital bed or in, wounded and stuff that he had. I mean, talk about that.
He was crushed completely out of his mind in pain. They had care flighted him to the hospital. And I couldn't even come in agreement to pray. And we had just come off this huge high of God opening and parting literally the Red Sea to get us here.
Yeah.
An open vision with the voice of God saying, go, walk the land. This is where I want you. This is where you'll be. On the mountaintop, God is with us. God is for us.
Yeah.
To my husband being completely crushed from the waist down, care flighted, out of his mind in pain, $7 in our account, not knowing how we're going to make it. The doctor coming in and saying you need $3,000 worth of blood thinner medication just so he can leave. He needs at least 2 weeks in the hospital, at least 2 months in a therapy clinic or assisted living. And then realizing we didn't have any insurance to you're going home tomorrow and you'll be his nurse, you'll be his rehab. And I remember I felt like there was this ringing, like someone had hit me over the head because I'm like, wait a minute, God, you brought us here. This amazing journey. You brought us here. And Art and Nancy, who I love, Art still lives on our property, on the property that we're at now. And Art and Nancy had come up from Dallas to get me out of the hospital. And Jonathan's medicated, and he's laying on the bed. And it's the next day. I think I'm still covered in whatever I was covered in. And they took me out of the hospital to a Sloshki's across the street from Mother Frances and Tyler. And this teenage girl with blonde hair and this big bow in her hair. I'm sitting there eating my sandwich, and she comes and she puts a piece of paper on my table, and she walks out of the restaurant. I'm like, okay, this is Sloshki. This isn't a bill, you pay. Yeah. So I open up this piece of paper, and it said, God will never give you anything you can't handle, and he saves his hardest battles for his strongest soldiers. Wow. And right there, I just started weeping. And there was something that settled in my heart right there in that moment. And I said, God, you see me?
Yeah.
You see me. And I went back to the hospital and I went and grabbed Jonathan's hand. And I said, babe, we need money. I don't know how we're going to do this. And I looked up to heaven and I sat down and I said, God, I trust you. That's all I put. God, I trust you. And 30 minutes later, a doctor that didn't even know Jonathan or even worked on him came in with the medication we needed in brown lunch sacks and said, here's your medication. You guys are able to leave. And I'm like, okay, God, you came through. And I remember putting him in the little van and, all the way home. He's, because he's in immense pain. Yeah. Dragging him through the house, putting him on the bed. The twins are about 4 years old, 3.5, 4 years old. Lath is 12. We're running a business from home and give him his medication. This was the best of times, but it was also the worst of times.
What year was this again?
2014. Jonathan was run over in January of 2015. January 25th of 2015, he was crushed. And I brought him home, and he would have night tremors, screaming, waking up, telling, get it off me, get it off me. And then across the house, Lath was having night tremors because he's the one who would run back and forth and tell me, Jonathan's still alive, Mom. He's still breathing. Wow. He's still alive. So Lath would run back and forth and check on Jonathan and then run back to me and tell me, he's okay, Mom, while the kids were holding my legs. It was so funny. Not funny, but in that moment when he's underneath those tractors and they're trying to claw him off of him and Lath's running back and forth telling me he's still breathing, he's still alive, I couldn't pray. Mm-hmm. All I could do when I opened my mouth was say, God, you're so good. King of kings and Lord of lords. King of kings and Lord of lords. All I could do was praise him. It was the weirdest thing. Wow. Not, Lord, save my husband, Lord God. None of that. Just King of kings and Lord of lords. Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. All I could do was call out his names. Wow. And when we got to the hospital, that whole thing with the teenage girl, Lord, I trust you. I brought him home. Lath would have night tremors. Jonathan would have night tremors. My nights were hell, literal hell. Kids wake them up, it was just hell all day. But every night at 5 o'clock, someone would knock on my door. And it would be a perfect stranger. And you know where we live. We live in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And it would be somebody with hot food. And she said, this first lady would said, I heard what happened to your husband, and I brought you a hot meal. Can I pray for you and your family? And I said, sure. And she'd bring in the food, and she'd pray over us, and then she reached in her pocket and put money on my counter. And every day, the night would be hell, the day would be hell. But at 5 o'clock, somebody else would come. And for 2 months, perfect strangers from every denomination, I'm talking Catholic, Methodist, Episcopalian, Baptist, would not. One guy was driving down our road and said the Holy Spirit filled his car and told him to pull into our driveway. He wrote us a check for $1,300, a perfect stranger. Wow. A perfect stranger. So it was the best of times, but it was the worst of times. He was giving me manna every evening for the hell that we walk through every day. And he was in a wheelchair for a year. A year that we walked through that. But he was faithful. $8,000 in 2 months. $8,000 from perfect strangers. Yeah. I had a wad of cash like this.
Because he's the God who sees you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can trust him. He didn't say, Sophie, trust me and it will be. I remember burying my friend who used to fight abortion clinics and try to keep ladies from having abortions. And her son was the same age as Lath. And my faith was so high. And I remember when God took her life, and I was like, we'll just pray her out of her casket because she's going to come back alive. And then the husband cremated her. And I was like,
that would have been a creative miracle.
But I remember
He can still do it.
Yeah,
but it'll
sure.
be-
Yeah.
But
that would
my
be
trust,
awesome to
my
see.
trust was shaken then, Daniel.
Mm.
And he said, keep coming. I never said it was going to be easy. But keep coming. That's what he told me. And so I'm still on that journey. Because it still hasn't been that easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he says, keep coming. I got more.
Mm.
And his more is so sweet.
Yeah. Glory to glory. That's when he takes us.
I think there's this illusion that when we sign up, it's going to be an easy path
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's not going to have hardship. But what I've found is the hardships we do go through because we're on his side and he's carrying us and he's with us, that we get the treasures from those things. And you go through a hardship, but he's right there carrying you. Yeah. And so there's the manna that you talk about that every evening was able to carry you into the next day. And it's every single day that he meets us in that place. Because he's a father now. He's not distant. It's just, he's my father now.
Yeah.
He's what I need for today. And I think that's just like a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
It's not something that anyone wants to walk through. But it's something like when you do go through those things, it's like, okay, God, I can make this because of you. I can make it through because of who you are. And it's just like a beautiful picture for me to just see the other side of the beautiful things that God has brought inside of you guys and the place of your heart now on the other side of that. It's very beautiful.
I trust him. I don't understand it all. I don't understand things that I see in front of me. Many, many, many times. A lot of pain, a lot of brokenness, a lot of hurt, a lot of confusion sometimes. But I can always quiet myself and say, God, I trust you. I trust you. I trust that you have good plans for me. I trust that you're going to make this way straight. And I'm still on my journey of trust. I still have times where I'm wrapped in fear. I'm wrapped in doubt. But I can pick up that white stone where he did it here. Yeah. I can look back and remember when he did this, when he provided here, when he did that. I can remember when I was dying. 2018, I was dying. And I was gray. And I remember that. I remember asking for death and seeing my brother and dad come for me, you know? I remember that. And I remember wanting death and not caring. And it was your dad that would come in and say, Sophie, you're going to have another surgery. You have to do it. And I said, no, Bill. He says, you have kids. And I said, I don't care. I can't do this anymore. It's too painful. And then somehow the grace would come into the room and I'd say yes to another surgery, 6 surgeries later. And it hasn't been easy. But you know what? For every yes, I don't know how to say this. It's just there's a new level of confidence that you have in him every time you say yes. Every time you say okay. And you know, in that yes, you feel so weak and so frail and so frightened because it's not this big, powerful yes all the time. Sometimes it's just this little weak, okay, you know, I trust you. But he takes that little bitty, but there's this confidence that somehow gets built inside of you, this sturdiness. And so that garment of shame that I bedazzled with bitterness that I once wore, I wear a different garment now.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when I took off that other garment. But I know I'm not wearing the same one anymore.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I think one of the hardest things we do in our walk that really shouldn't be hard because you get to see how beautiful God is in his provision and his faithfulness is, and me included, I want to do a yes and. Yes, God, I give you my yes, and I'm going to help you in my yes, and I'm going to do things myself. And it comes from that place of, do you really trust God 100%?
That's the
And that's
question.
tough.
That's the question.
That's a tough question. And I think he is, like I shared even just like last Sunday, just the gentleness of Holy Spirit, that God is not a gruff God to just be stern and mean. He is someone who is like, okay, you've given me 30% of your yes. I can work with your 30%, but we're going to continue to work on the other 70%. And he brings you from glory to glory. Like you said, we're going to continue moving on in this relationship. And he's not one, it would be unfaithful of God if he left you there in that place where you're doing a yes and, because then it's not a true unabandoned yes.
He's jealous for our trust.
Yeah.
He is a jealous God. I never understood that before. Whenever I would read that as a young girl, he's a jealous God. But he's a jealous God. He's jealous for your trust.
Yeah. And it's his grace. It's his grace that, I don't know, I'm 45 years old. I've been walking with God most of my life. My dad's a missionary, ministers to the nations. I've walked by faith my whole life. I remember times where we prayed for meals. I mean, you guys were missionary kids. You know what it's like. I don't know if you, or I haven't, let me just say it this way. I haven't gotten to the place where I'm at, 95% trust, or I don't know, even 85 or 70. I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I'm somewhere. Thank God. But his grace is, it's all about him. Just the capacity to trust is his grace. It's his faithfulness. And as we look back, I remember the story, Daniel and I talk about this a lot, where Jesus was talking to his disciples after feeding the multitudes and asking them about bread. And they start from a place of lack. And it was and I think it was in Mark, right? Mark, 8?
Yeah.
And the progression is really interesting. Jesus asks them in this order. He says, can you see? Can you not see? And then he says, can you not hear? And then he says, can you not remember? And the reality is, many times in these situations, especially when we're in a trust situation, we can't see at all. We don't know.
Or hear.
Or hear. And I say I can hear many times better than I can see, because I can't see anything 90% of the time. I can hear his promises over my life. I can hear his faithfulness. One thing I can't do is remember.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that's really a choice. That's on us.
Yeah.
Sight, he gives us sight. He gives us the ability to hear his voice. But remembering, that's my choice.
Yeah.
And I can do that in any season. I can look back and I can say, God, you sold our home for us. You healed my legs. You took care of my wife. You fed us with manna. You brought us to Palestine. We didn't know anyone. We had no idea of your purpose for us, but you were faithful. You were faithful then, and you're going to be faithful now. So what, as we now are lead pastors of a church, you face such sometimes such monumental, such gigantic, seemingly obstacles in whatever, business owner, mom and dad, parenting. I mean, we all face these obstacles, but the beauty is we can look back and we can remember God's faithfulness. And so we can lean into these things and we can say, God, I don't know how it's going to work out, but you do. And I remember last time you took care of this thing, and I know you're going to do it again. And that's such a beautiful thing. And that's his grace.
Yeah.
It's his grace.
How do you deal with it's going to be vulnerable here. How do you deal with when it doesn't bleed over. So like personally, right now in this situation and where I am today, I know God as my provider. Like he has shown up and shown out financially in abundance and opportunities and jobs and all this goodness and all his character. And I can trust and I love and I honor fully him there. And it's not there for my relationships. I do not trust him in my relationships. I do not trust him. I feel so alone in my relationships. And I hate that. And I hate that feeling. And I've been mad at him for it. And I know that it's got a lot of hurt. And I know that it's got a lot of pain from just the things that I've gone through in my own life leading up to this day. And it's like it's as if I have the letter armor only there. The rest of me, it's like it's not there. But when it comes to that, I still like have this belief you're not going to show up for me here. And you're not going to see me here.
Can I?
Absolutely.
A heart wrapped in barbed wire. I went into an encounter one time with the Lord, and he was standing in front of me. And in my mind's eye, I reached in my chest and I gave him my heart. And my heart was wrapped in barbed wire, very tightly wound. And he looked at me with eyes of love and trust. And he said, Sophie, can I cut this barbed wire off your heart? And I looked at him almost in like, what? No, that's what's protecting it. That's what's protecting it. And almost like he looked into my soul and he says, no, look again. And when I looked again, I saw how that barbed wire was eating and rotting places in my heart, completely rotting it. And my heart was this shrunken, wrapped up barbed wire thing. He said, can I cut that off? I said, if you cut it off, what's going to protect it? And he said, that's my job. That's my job. And I have lived since I was a little girl through different pain and abuse, protecting my own heart. And when people got close, that barbed wire is going to stop you. And when he said, can I cut that barbed wire off? It took a minute, but I said, okay. And he did. He just cut it off. And my heart went from this little Grinch heart to this huge, whopping, huge, pink, healthy heart. And I was like, whoa, that's not going to fit back in my chest. He says, lay down. And I laid back. And he put that heart back into my body. And since that day, my love for people has grown so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not wrapped up with that little side eye. And so I want to encourage you, Sam, to let him cut the barbed wire. It's his job to protect your heart. It's his job to do that. And he will.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're protecting yourself from hurt, but you're also protecting yourself from love being poured in as well.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It can't grow. It was stunted.
Yeah.
It was rotting. It was dying. It couldn't fit any more love in it. And when he cut that off, it expanded my heart where I could receive love, where I could feel love. You can trust him.
I think that there's such a variety of experiences we go through in life. And it hits us in ways we aren't fully aware of, I think. And shapes us in ways that our perception is, yeah, like I'm gonna be safer this way. That hurt me. I gotta protect myself in a certain way. A lot of my life experiences are protected in my pursuit of control. And living a life uncontrolled is a scary life. But if there's a anthem or a theme that God continuously calls us to, it's surrender. Yeah. And dying to yourself looks a lot like releasing control, where my instinct is to try to manipulate and persuade this situation because I need to feel safe. I need to feel in control, and safety and control go hand in hand in my brain. And so surrendering it is unbelievably scary. And I want to apply that to anyone's situation that they're going through, that they feel like they have to relinquish that control, relinquish that situation, because it's difficult to do, and it's difficult to get to the place where you realize that these walls or these self-protective mindsets and habits are actually hurting you and holding you back. And that barbed wire is digging into it and infecting it rather than keeping things out.
The thorns go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a very popular saying right now amongst influencers and a lot of online things. But we'll choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. And I know that pain, so I know I can live with it rather than what I don't know, which is my heart without the barbed wire, right? Like that's a argument that we can have in our own heads.
Yeah.
to say, like, I get that I need to cut it off, and it's hard for me to get there to say that. And I'm not saying that's my choice. I'm just saying, like, this is, I want to hit all different perspectives of this. Because I desire to have the barbed wire cut off. I think my barbed wire, personally, this is interesting, isn't there to keep people away as much as it is to bind me to them.
That's exactly it. That's what I was just going to say. And you know what I was going to say about that barbed wire, Sam? And that place, that familiar place, which I understand very well. It's very cold and lonely there. It's very dark. It's very deep. And I remember the moment. There was like this gut-wrenching, shattering yelp that came from deep within me, this scream, this roar that exploded, this sound. And it shattered. I was like, okay, in that sound of that yelp and that pain, that gut-wrenching, there was so much like, okay, I'm gonna trust you. You better do right by me. All of this, but when I stepped over from that, I mean, like I went from this cold black hole that I lived in, this loneliness. No matter if I was around people or not, no matter if I was in church or not, there's just felt this lonely. To stepping over into this, like I'm sitting by a warm, cozy fire. And I look almost like I can look back and say, I haven't been cold and lonely and dark in such a long time. All I know is this warm fire, this warm place, this coziness. And it's his love. It's his love that will wreck that place in you, Sam. And it's that yelp. That yelp is a release of your will, and that next breath is a breath in of receiving him in. And it's a different place. You're already a son, but it's a place of that surrender that you're talking about. And I don't think to me, it wasn't actual words or a prayer. To me, it was this gut-wrenching yelp, the sound that came out of me. But it went from this cold, dark, lonely place to I'm warm and cozy by a fire, and it's his presence and his love that I've let in, and it surrounds me and it covers me, and I walk in it and I live in it, and sometimes I don't even realize what I'm living in until I remember, like we're remembering now. I remember that place. And even though it's an unknown scary, it's a warm, cozy, unknown scary.
I think you said it well, Sam. Surrender. I think, Psalms 23 says, surely your goodness and mercy follow me. And I've thought about this, and I'm not saying that this is exactly correct theology. Why does it follow us? Maybe because we're running from it. And maybe when we sit down at the table that he's prepared for us in front of our enemies, in front of our fear, in front of our insecurities, in front of whatever.
Pain, trauma.
Maybe that's when his goodness and mercy overtake us. It's at the table. And we can eat and feast on that goodness. And we surrender. We stop running. We stop trying to figure it out. How's this going to look? I got to do this. This has got to happen. Yeah. And we just sit at the table that he's prepared for us in the presence of all this junk. And we are overwhelmed by his goodness. We are overwhelmed by his mercy, and we realize you're my portion. I remember in Genesis, I think it was 14, there's the story of Abraham, and he gets all of his possessions taken from him. Lot gets taken from him by the kings. And with 300 men, he goes and fights the kings, vastly outnumbered, gets all of the stuff back. The kings say, hey, take the spoil, take everything. Abraham's like, no, I'm not going to do this because I don't want it to be said that you made me rich. And this awesome exchange happens with Melchizedek. But the most amazing thing happens after this. After Abraham rejects what the world says is going to make you comfortable, what the world says is going to make you safe, what the world says you should be looking for. In chapter 15, I think it's verse 1, God comes to him and he says, I'm your shield. Yeah. And your exceedingly great reward. It's me.
That's so good.
I cover your heart. Everything that you've been looking for, everything that you've been searching for, it's me. And I'm your protector. I will cover you under my wings, and the reward that you are looking for, the riches, the what fill in the blank, the relationships, the healing, it all comes in and through me. And that's what he has for all of us. He's our shield. He's the protector of our hearts, and he's our reward. He's what we're looking for. And then we realize it, and then we have to realize it. Oh, it's you. It's always been you. It always will be you. And in eternity, we're gonna see it in a brand new way.
Yeah,
we'll see him as he is, and we're like, oh my gosh, you were my reward. I knew it, but now I really know it. But I think that's that walk of sanctification. I think that the grace that God gives us, part of it is to see that he is our reward. He is everything that we're looking for, everything that we're striving for in life, to be loved, to be valued, all of the fill in the blank. It comes from and through him. Alone. It's him. I'm your shield, Abraham, and your exceedingly great reward.
It's good.
It's really weird. It's like he fills in those places. It's like his love ooze falls into those stab wounds and those cracks and those. It's like the balm of Gilead comes into those places, and it's just like nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. You can take everything away from me, but don't take this, what I'm experiencing, what I have in you. And once you experience that, man, it's so powerful. Yeah. And it's, I tell family and I tell friends, like, I'm not telling you from some book that I read. I'm telling you from a personal experience of a person. I remember when things weren't so great in my life, and the man that I put on a pedestal, all these things came out, and that's when I tried crack cocaine for the first time. My son was 5 months old. I mean, I know what it looks like to go to different things and vices and to search for some type of numbness to get this pain out of your head, this pain out of your heart. But he's the only one that's ever done that for me. He's the only one. And once you experience that, nothing else satisfies like he does. And if I could leave one thing in this world, if I could leave one mark, I would say, it's that surrender that is so hard for us to do. It's worth it. If I could scream it from a mountain, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Silence just felt appropriate. I know that people will be like, oh, that's dead air, but I don't care. That's what we do here. Wrestling with hard things, it's what we do here. Going through life and it being messy is what we do here. God's not scared of messes.
Oh,
Yeah.
And people are messes. Will always be. I think that we put an unfair pressure when we expect ourselves not to be messes, but we are messes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Jesus creating mud out of dirt was messy with his spit in order to heal.
Yeah.
And so in a way, God likes to use messes to bring healing. And we have to be able to stand there and let him make a mess that's going to ultimately bring healing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if, like you said, I have just bags of shards. And I have desperately tried to assemble and create something, and it keeps falling apart, and it keeps falling apart, and it keeps falling apart, and I feel tired, exhausted. Because I can't do it. And there's a part of me that says, or tries to convince myself, that if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. And I put that pressure on myself.
Because you've been the only one you can depend on.
Yeah. So it seems.
So it seems. That's that lonely place.
Yeah.
Where everyone who you should, in the natural, have been able to count on. Everyone. Everyone. You've been the only one that you've been able to count on.
And sometimes not even him.
That's exactly right.
Sometimes
That's when it gets really dark.
the table, yes. Yes, ma'am. Sometimes the table that is prepared in front of your enemies is a mirror,
Oh, that's the scariest table.
and it's just you and you. And that has been me. And I've had to do a lot of self-work to figure out, again, just holding the tension here. It all comes from trying to self-protect. It's all a survival tactic. You're trying and you're just spiraling. And I'm not bringing justification to anything. I'm saying that we will go to extremes to try to self-protect. And those extremes are not sometimes healthy and safe places. They're very painful places and very dangerous places. And I've had to sit with that. I've had to sit with the fact that I have been the pain in people's lives. And I've been the pain in my own life. And when you feel like you're not safe for you, you're right. Like, it is an extremely dark place.
Oh, yeah. I've sat there many times. Frozen sometimes.
Yeah.
Catatonic.
Yep. Yes.
It's interesting. Yesterday, I was telling Daniel this the other day, just to be vulnerable, just feeling super empty and overwhelmed, and not for any specific reason. I felt empty. I felt alone. I felt frustrated. I felt scared. I mean, I was feeling all kinds of stuff, and I was reading my Bible, and I just felt like I heard the Holy Spirit he said, let's go take a walk. So I'm walking, downtown. Our church is down in the middle of Palestine, and just walking and just feeling crappy. And I sat on this little bench, and I was just feeling sorry for myself, and I just, belly aching to the Lord. I just feel so alone. I just feel so empty. I feel. And, the Lord let me, get it all out and, feel. I feel. And it was just so cool because he asked me a simple question. He said, I know you feel empty, but are you? I said, no. He said, why aren't you empty? I said, because you're in me. He said, I know you feel alone, but are you? I was like, no. Because you're always with me and you never leave me. And I know that sounds simple, but in that moment, I needed to hear that. I needed to be reminded, I feel empty. I feel alone. I feel overwhelmed. I feel all these things. And those feelings are legitimate. Right. But the truth is, I'm not empty. I'm not alone. The one who calms the sea with his voice is in me and with me and for me. And in that moment, I just felt such great peace and confidence because I'm not alone. I'm not empty. And I don't have to feel overwhelmed.
What's hard is, yes, I completely agree with that. But what's hard is when you're in that catatonic space of you were able on that park bench to hear his voice. And I think when you're in that dark place of pain and hurt, and I'll just put this out here, I didn't hear a voice. Yeah. The only voice I heard in my head was to end my life. Yeah. And that's why I was catatonic, because I knew my next move would be to hurt myself. Yeah. So I stayed frozen for hours. So that's great when you're on that bench and you actually can hear his voice. But what about you're so deep in the pain and the hurt and the trauma, or even the chemical imbalance, or the thoughts in your head are the loudest? Yes. What do you do in that moment? Where do you find the peace and the love and the truth? Because it's truth that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Right. Where do you find the truth when you're wrapped in miles of lies? Yes. How do you hear it then?
I feel that goes back to what you were saying, that he never leaves you nor forsakes you. Because when you're in that state of trauma, it's almost all for all my video game guys out there, or military guys. When you throw like a flashbang into an area, you're immediately blinded. You lose your hearing. There's that ringing of trauma, and it's like you're disoriented. You don't know what's up or down or where you are. But in that moment, you can hit the floor, and as an act of your will, you can feel your way into a space that you know is safe. You can feel your way into a space that you know is where he's going to be there. And what I'm getting at is that, like, when all your senses get lost and you can't hear in that moment, and you're in that moment of trauma, you need to remind yourself, okay, self, I am loved by God. He is faithful. It is written, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And that's one of my favorite scriptures in Hebrews, because that word forsake is talking about a position of his heart, because he says, I will never leave nor forsake. And it's like you're almost saying two things that are very similar. I'm never going to leave you physically, and I'm never going to turn my heart away from you. So even in that moment that you feel like everything is crashing down around me, and I get to those moments sometimes where it's just like, Ruth has been married to me for a while now, so she's seen these moments where they're like super dark, and I'm like, God, I don't even, like I will say sometimes it's so stupid, I'm like, I don't even know if you're real because I can't even hear you. It's like, it's so dumb. But you get to those moments of like sheer like hopelessness and brokenness, and it's like at those moments when the flashbang goes off, you have to position yourself and say, okay, I may not be able to hear or see or any of those things, but like what Jonathan said earlier, I can remember as an act of my will. I can remember that you're inside of me.
Yeah.
I can remember when Micaiah was not going to make it into this world, and you protected her. I remember when we were considering life-flighting William to a hospital in Tyler. Like, I remember these things, and you came through for them.
Yeah.
I remember when you brought me out of this season and did this and this and this, and pretty soon you're stirring up your faith inside you.
Yeah.
And then out of that, God is like, okay, you weren't able to hear me before. You can hear me now because of the things that you're remembering.
That's so good. That's so good. And you're talking about how God is ever present and ever close. I just had a thought. I don't know if it was this morning or I don't know where I was, but I was thinking about the omniscience of God, the omnipresence of God. I'm like, there's times in my life where I feel closer to God than not.
Mm-hmm.
But even that statement is a complete lie.
Yeah.
Because if he's omnipresent, how do you get closer to something? Because that space between the close and the closer, he's there because he's omnipresent.
Yeah.
Even closer. That space of close, he's even there because he's even in that space. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was like, whoa. So there's not a time when I'm closer to you or not.
No.
You are in every space.
Yeah. It's an awareness that we have. We convince ourselves and listen to the voice of darkness that says he's abandoned you, he's left you. Even David said, like, I can make my bed in hell and you're still there.
Right.
Like, we have to change our verbiage sometimes and say, God, you're here. Literally, he's in this room right now. I may not be aware of your presence right now, but let me, Holy Spirit, open my awareness. Like, open my eyes is very Bible verbiage. Like, open the eyes of my heart to actually see, oh, wow, you really are here. And I think when we get in those dark moments or those dark seasons or whatever it is inside of our life, our awareness plummets of God with us, when really we need to start remembering and saying, God, you're actually with me right here, right now, and you never left me.
I think that's it, that remembering.
Another thing I want to add to that, I want to say yes to all that and amen. But also,
You can say no.
it's
Disagree with me. Just say no. You're full of crap.
No, you're right. You're right. As a pastor, I feel it's so important to remind people. Community is so important.
Mm-hmm.
There's times when I feel broken, alone, and my brothers, Daniel, you've done this, text me, call me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in that catatonic state when you just can't hear God for yourself. Sometimes you need the voice of a brother or sister that has faith when you don't. I'm reminded of that parable of the paralyzed man. Yeah. Yes, he was paralyzed in body, but how many of us are paralyzed in our soul?
Oh, man.
That's good.
He didn't have faith for himself, but his friends cut the roof of a house open.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, you don't have faith. You can't hear God. You can't even get to God right now. But I'm going to get you to Jesus.
That's good.
If I have to tear down the walls, I'm going to get you to the one who is the answer. And that's why it says you don't forsake the assembling of yourself together. Maybe there's faith. Maybe you don't have faith right now, but guess what? I have faith right now for you. I can look back. I can remember what God has done for me, and I can have faith for you. And guess what? There's going to be a day where I don't have faith, But you have faith that you can lend to me, that you can give, and it works that way.
Yeah.
As Jesus told his friends, it's your faith. Yeah. It's your faith that he's healed. That's super important. Community is so key. Yeah. And the enemy uses those things to isolate us from people that can actually be the voice of God to us in those dark places. So we need one another. We do. Super important.
So there are these things that when you are dealing with a sore throat, you can pop one of these in your mouth and it numbs it. And then all of a sudden, you don't feel that pain anymore. And when we go through painful and dark seasons and experiences, we really like to numb ourselves.
Yeah, true.
And so I would like to submit that perhaps the distance that you might think you feel between you and God could very much well be numbness. Because I know in my life, when I've tried to numb things, it's not the pain that immediately goes. The first thing that I start feeling numbness is my connectedness to God.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I start to feel numbness in my connectedness to people.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the last thing that goes is the pain that I'm trying to numb.
Yeah.
And you get in that kind of I can't speak, but you get in that space where you're, what's the word? Where you're
Catatonic.
Catatonic. That's how you say that word.
Catatonic.
Catatonic. We're learning a word today. It's called catatonic. I have to say
They
it.
come across the screen in rainbow. The more you know.
Yes.
We went
That catatonic
deep. We went really
space.
deep today.
We did.
We have gone deep today. It's been extremely good and it's been extremely needed.
Yes.
And Ruth has a lot more to say, so I'm going to let her.
You know what happens when you send it to me.
We're going to send it to Ruth real fast. Just give us some wisdom, tie the bow on this thing, like for the next
I don't
hour.
have any.
You do.
No, I don't.
You always have things.
No, it's a
She-
lot
this
to
is-
process.
Got the
It's one of
beat
those.
So just let it flow, Ruth.
No, it's
Yeah.
one of those processing.
Ruth, please. She hasn't talked the whole episode.
I have to. It's
Yeah.
a processing episode. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a therapy session just listening. Thank you for being vulnerable,
Yes.
Sophie.
Yes.
Like
Thank
this
you.
is so refreshing. It is really, really good.
Thank you for saying that. To me, I'm going to be 50 in December. I said that on the air.
Yeah, so you can't
Wait a minute. Well,
30
Yeah,
Oh, you're going to be
she
37.
she can't get mad at
Sorry,
me
I missed that
anymore for telling people she's going to be 50. She's like, don't tell people. I'm like, okay, now I can
I
say
can
you
still get
said
mad
it
at
in
you,
front
though.
of hundreds and thousands of people.
I'll still get
All
mad at you.
4 of our listeners.
Probably.
Well,
It's the one that goes
I
viral.
I just don't like. I don't have. You know what I'm. I just. Why?
Yeah.
Just be real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just be real.
I don't have time to play.
Why?
You're
Why?
50.
I'm
Feels good to say that.
I can say it.
Have time. You're running out of time.
No, I can say it. You can't say it.
You're approaching the end now.
Down the
You
hill.
can hit him. It's okay. We'll
my
turn the
goodness.
camera off.
Yeah, we'll cut away.
Well, to me, vulnerability is polishing the broken shards.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Bro. I think we just found our new motto. Have it on each one. That was really good.
Say that one more time.
Holy cow.
To me, vulnerability is polishing the broken shards
That's
and letting
good.
you see them. And that's what makes it beautiful, is the vulnerability of it.
Because I see things in my head and I always think of shards as glass. That brings such a new level, because if there is residue and a film over that glass, you are not seeing through it correctly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you need to pick it up and you need to polish it so that you can see through it correctly. and not have a skewed vision.
See it for what it is.
That's really good.
And in addition,
My goal is to get Jonathan to say no. That's wrong.
in addition, when you put the mosaic together,
Yeah.
not only can you see through it clearly, but people can see
Yeah.
through
Wow.
and see Jesus,
Yes.
which is the goal,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Like see through you,
yeah, see through
Yes.
that brokenness, see through the mosaic.
like a looking glass.
Yeah.
Yes.
And really that's the beauty of the mosaic of our lives,
yeah.
is that
It's a window.
it is, and all the colors that make up our mistakes and our all of the junk,
Yeah.
people look through it and they're like, oh my gosh, there's Jesus.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Because they'll overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Come on.
And that's what the mosaic is the word of their testimony coming out.
Amen.
That's good, Sophie.
So good.
And Jonathan. In addition.
We are one. It all started with a kiss.
It all started, come on,
With
it
a
goes back to
magical
crab
kiss.
cakes.
Hey, I'm convinced because I've fallen in love at Rockwall, that exact place that y'all are talking about. There's something in that.
There is,
You
yeah.
want to fall in
Something
love,
there.
go to this location. There's an AMC theater right
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
hotel
true.
that's right there. You can sit on a
It's a
park bench
special
and
moment.
fall in love. I promise you that can happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank God
But I
for
won't
good
be there
friends.
to kiss you.
Well, you're already in love. We don't want them falling in love
Yeah.
with you.
I mean, we still got to get you to propose right. And me, obviously.
That's
so
true.
We got a lot of
True.
work, dude.
Someday. Maybe on my 20 year. I still got to get you a double ring too.
Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
We got a lot of work we
I
got to
know.
do. Ruth doesn't even wear her ring anymore,
broke.
apparently.
I need it fixed.
A true covenant would never break.
Okay,
Ruth.
well, it's gonna fall out if I wear it.
Oh, that's a nice diamond.
And
You
we, yeah, it's
The sign
it's
of our
in a
love falling apart.
safe place. No, it's not. I just need a new ring.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Anyway.
No, this has been an extremely good episode. Thank you guys for your vulnerability. Thank you for your yes. Thank you for your willingness to come and sit on this couch. And hopefully we made it comfy for you. Hopefully it was something that you guys got something from. I know I got something from it.
Yes.
And selfishly, this is a podcast for me. So I just bring my issues and I say, hey guys, help me solve me. And it's worked out pretty well so far. And so, thank you for spending the last, I think it's about 2 hours that we've been on this,
man.
guys.
Wow.
It's been a good episode. So it's
was a
like
great
8 o'clock
episode.
for you guys because y'all have been here since 6, right? Math is
All right.
mathing. Because at 6 p.m. on Sundays, that's when we drop these episodes. And you can watch live at YouTube. You can also listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then what else do we want to say? I don't know. I feel like Ruth's got something.
Nothing. We're
Ruth
saying
has-
bye. See y'all later.
Ruth's
It was
got-
an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
I will say that
Yeah.
to spend time with you in the Shard Nation. It was really, it's
Yeah.
always great to be here.
Yes.
This is my second time.
Yes. No, at this point, like y'all
I
are
need a star or
always
something.
welcome. We need gold stars to be.
Like a Burger King hat, you know. It's something.
Yes. Can we
my
Next
God.
time I need one so I can wear that. I would totally
I
wear
would
that the whole
love that.
episode. I
Yes.
will totally
We're
wear
going to
that
get some
Burger King
merch
hat.
out.
We really do, honestly.
2025 is our year of merch.
If you guys make T-shirts or anything, like, please just reach out because we need to just actually
help.
get under help.
Help us.
In more ways than one.
So many ways. In so many ways, we need help. So thank you guys for just hanging out with us and spending this time with us and learning with us. This is not something that we want to ever convey that we have the correct ways of doing things or like we understand. I literally come onto this podcast to ask questions, to have searching conversations because I do not know. And I want to make that very clear. I don't know. And so we just try to figure out and try to make sense of what we do know and try to find that truth. So until next time.